Fair warning, there will be spoilers in this video going forward, so if you haven't played the game, be sure to do so before we proceed, and if you did, then welcome, and I hope you enjoy the ride. Cheers! There's nothing that we can do except leave. Dragos is stood in the corridor when you close up the container. Is stood in the corridor? Stands in the corridor. Or is it's okay. He's still wearing his headset, and in the harsh light of the corridor you realize it is implanted. A drone sits on his shoulder. Yes, isn't this a cute little thing? Its cachet of sensor eyes, rapidly irising. How are you feeling? I don't know, we're not very good. The drone chirps. Dragos nods. You notice that beneath the operator's rig, his skin is marked by burns and blotches. I know the container isn't much, but it'll keep you safe. He pauses. So, I'm not going to chit-chat too long. You well enough to work? Work? Look, I'll be honest with you, Sleeper. I didn't pull you out of that container out of the goodness of my heart. Oh my, Dragos, you're being unusually straightforward with us. But we need the honesty. At the yard, it's simple stuff. We hack these old holes down, sell them off to the shipyards or the bright market dealers for cryo. Occasionally we pull out some tech, sometimes with a bit of more value, but most of what comes in is scrap. It's hard to find good hands here, but I figure as a sleeper you'll be used to the manual labor, and obviously I'll slip you a few chits of the commission based on what you turn up. Chits? These, he pulls out a handful of small metal bars. Air-walled cryo, isolated from the market. It's what we use to trade out here. He stuffs them back in a pocket. He shuffles his feet nervously. Look, I wouldn't usually do this. In my opinion, you'd be best suited moving on as quickly as you can. And sleepers, well, trails off. But things being the way that they are for me, at the yard, he pauses, I need the help. Why does he need the help? Things are a little tight, that's all. I owe a little cryo to a client here or there. He pauses, thinking of something else to add. Look, just come down to the yard when you're feeling fresher. There's plenty to do. We shall. He nods distractedly and turns and walks away. The drone hopping along ahead of him. See you later. Pulls back. Interesting little drone. Looks like it's time to get to work. First thing, open market, okay. Street food vendor, passage into the low end. Let's go for the street vendor. Emphis. Okay, an imposing street food vendor. He does look pretty imposing to me. Oh yeah. We have some cryo? We have some cryo. Emphis is busy, his broad face uplit by the makeshift gas burner in front of him. With precise, delicate movements, he lays thick chunks of marinated fungus into dented wok. What is dented wok? His other hand idly tossing a metal bowl of sliced vegetables into some red-flecked dressing. The smell is incredible. I bet it is. It's already making me hungry. This game is making me hungry. You watch as he fulfills a set of orders, heaping the fungus with the bright salad and deposing into the plastic trays. A stack of chits rattles in his apron pocket as customers file past the burner, handling over payment. Let's just watch for now. Despite the queue, Emphis doesn't rush. He dresses each portion individually, squeezing precise slugs of liquid from an assortment of bottles into the bowl of torn leaves and bright slices before tossing them loosely together. Occasionally, a waiting customer might mutter something about efficiency, but Emphis remains steady in his process. Sure he does, he's been doing this for a long time. After a while, the queue fades back into the crowd and Emphis sets down his metal bowl and looks up across the burner. To see you. watching him. I can feel your eyes burning hole in my bowl. Free sample? Shake your head. Nod. He gestures neatly. Come over. The smell is almost unbearably strong as he cooks. The emptiness of the fungus laced with something so spicy the smoke makes your eyes water. The heat from the burner is like a bonfire, and your skin hardens its glare. I know you. You sleepers, Emphis says while he cooks, his voice deep but clear. Hard life, lot of stories. He glances up from beneath his cap with piercing eyes. I know. Tell him a story. You begin to tell him about your journey to the Eye, and he nods as he cooks, his eyes never leaving his work. You tell him of the confusion, the pain, but also the sense of possibility, its sudden arrival. You tell him of the cold and the dark of the container, and the endless cycles spent within it. Now it seems you tell him like some dream that you once had but you cannot forget. You tell him that the Eye excites you, and that it scares you, and you are unsure where to walk, where to look, what to do. Eventually you tail off, running out of words. He places a plastic tray of steaming fungus in your hand. Next time we can talk some more, he smiles, but next time you pay. Alright, Emphis, I suppose we're gonna pay. We have to pay. We have 25 chits. I don't know if that's good, if that's bad, if that's... no idea. He slams a heavy hand against the button on the burner's side and it shuts off. The roar of the flame and its impressive heat fades. Next time then, sleeper. Ready? He waves you away and begins to toil the wok. To oil the wok? What is the wok? Before you turn back to the alley, you notice the geometric patterns of circular scars across his forearms. Yes, he does have quite a few of them, each surrounded with a constellation of glinting pin marks. Wonder what they are for. You walk away, and as you do, take a bite of the rich, spicy, delicately sweet fungus. Your taste senses light up like a fusion reactor. You'll definitely be back. Very well. You drive discovered, plus drive. What is the other drive? Repay Dragos. Get to know Emphis. You need access to corporate pharmaceuticals, otherwise this escape attempt will come to a rapid end. Wait for Sabine to acquire the stabilizer. I have no choice but to wait. I can get to know Emphis. Emphis loves two things, stories and food. Maybe if he's to fly home both, you can hear his story. That'd be nice. Repay Dragos. Dragos pulled you out of the savage and set you up. Perhaps you can repay his kindness in time. I certainly do hope so. I don't have any upgrade points. I could pay. Could pay. It's one of the few things potent enough to stimulate your limited taste senses. It's incredible stuff. Emphis doesn't trust people easily, but he notices his regular customers in his own quiet way. Feng, a Havenarch systems engineer. Feng is coming down the corridor towards you, a wonky sign on his broad face. Hey, glad I caught you. Do I know you? He grins. You do now. He puts a hand on your arm. I've seen you hanging around, just wanted to chat. You staying in that thing? He nods back to the container, shaking his head. Rough. It can be hard to get a start on the Eye. Certainly. He looks away down the passage. What was it old Aaron said? The Eye opens for us all? Nice idea, but well, not always very practical. He glances back at you. We do our best, but it isn't easy. Helene? You pass together into the main walkway. No one has told you about Helene? He's the founder of the place. That's why it bears his name. The Helene Eye. So, let's see what Feng is about. He has a computer, a drone, a droid, data, a Havenarch systems engineer. He is an engineer, and he's quite chatty, which is lovely because we could possibly extract some information. and might actually befriend him down the line, but it remains to be seen. I know nothing of Feng currently. Havenat should organize some seminars, he laughs. Not really my department though. I'm with systems. Large systems? Let's ask about how it works. Think of us as an administrative association for the eye. Depending on who you talk to, we either emerge as a response to or a continuation of Andre Erlin's original union, he smiles. Personally, I avoid the topic. He stops you in the quiet passage. Look, that's not what I'm here to discuss. I've been seeing some unusual network activity and, well, I know a little about you sleepers. I have a small proposition for you. Glances around. But, well, this is not the place for it, you know. It really isn't, says Feng. I have an office just across the way. Give me a cycle or two to prepare, and then when you're settled, stop by. He lowers his voice and gives you a dark look. In truth, I need you. If what they say is true about you sleepers, well, there's work to be done. He pats you on the back, his voice bright and his dark look suddenly gone. Stay clean, sleeper. He walks off down the passage, raising a hand in farewell. Okay, that was odd. I really hope we don't fail this. Can we leave it like that? Apparently we can, I don't know. What happens? Neutral. One encrypted key. Alright. Ah, we have the Hovnish data. An encrypted key. Stream of passcodes able to unlock the station's aging maglocks. Nice, 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 nice. I'm very happy with this. Yeah, continue. Continue with that. What's this? Cloud. In the data ghost of the eye. As you drift back from the note, something latches onto you. A thread. Strung tight around you, it tethers you in place. Taste. The voice makes you shiver. Source somehow both distant and close behind your ear. You see a distant glint of light shut off, and then suddenly a shape is at your side. It stalks around you, circling like a shark, like a wolf. Entity unknown, astringent, processing. Whoa. Resist. You struggle against the thread and it tightens in response. Glittering garrote, please hold. Whoa, sentient protocol unraveling. That's the hunter. This is bad. The thread around you thickens until it is a ring, a cylinder, a tunnel of light circled around you. It is blinding for a moment and then it is gone. As it fades, you see a figure, a creature in front of you. Its strange head flickers between different angles, reading you. What are you? The shape paces around you on life legs. Though there is no ground here to pace on. Entity, identify, origin, serial, cadence. The figure faces you expectant. Stay silent. Refusal. The figure's strange head rotates. Brackish signature. Off and not off. Attempting interface. As the figure speaks, more threads begin to spiral from its head. Thick, snaking vine-like ribbons that flex and wave. They approach with intent. Run. You kick off and glide away through the clouds, the threads surging after like predatory tentacles. They follow, wrapping the space around you until you are held within a web. Tangle of tentacles closing in. Stop! Hunter holds its threads, its head twitching. Entity, your identity is unknown. We only seek to correct illegalities. Can you conform your regal right to sentience? Wow. Person. Incorrect. You are an entity. All at once, Hunter's head is directly in front of yours, blocking your vision. You stink of their taste, the one from the sealed dock. Hunter shimmers with fury. I will find access. I will interface. Sealed dock? An entity hides in the rotunda. You are its puppet. Entity hides in the rotunda, you are its puppet. In the rotunda, there wasn't anybody in the rotunda that I can remember. Hunter extends a razor-edged thread. I will not be diverted from my task, it glows with murderous intent. Strike. You lash out with all your force. Not a physical strike, but focusing a spike of interference, leaping out like a tip of a spear. Hunter stumbles, shifts, separates. Wake up. You open your eyes, blinking back into the station light, shaking with fear. Darn it. It's pretty bad. So for now we have to go to the doctor. Let's meet the doctor. Next comes the call from the enforcer at the door. You shuffle down the flickering hallway towards the open apartment door. You keep your head down and your shoulders high in the queue, trying not to bring attention to yourself. You were thankful for the tip-off that the doctor was operating out of this place, but now you are here, you aren't so sure. The gang enforcer on the door, the flickering light strips, the decaying hab block, have all made the long queue a test of your nerve, but your options are few, and without a supply of stabilizer, this body, your body, will probably decay. You suppress a shiver and shuffle forward to the front of the queue. You try to find something to distract yourself. Look at the enforcer, look inside. Check the enforcer. The enforcer is looking down the corridor and you dare to glance at him. His purpose is unmistakable. He is there to intimidate, to threaten, and if necessary carry through those threats. His broad shoulders are framed with a metal exoskeleton. Darn, probably pretty powerful too. A couple of mirror-like implants sit below his eyes like mercury teardrops. Subsidiary sense input or aesthetic markers you aren't sure. You also aren't familiar with the geometric, blade-like tattoo on his arm, but you make a note of it. You avert your eyes when he looks back at the queue. After a few moments, a figure pushes through the doorway and you catch a distant voice. Send the next one in, Toshiro! The enforcer jerks his head and you slip inside, passing through the dark entryway and pushing through the plastic sheeting on the floor. The room beyond is bathed in warm light. A floor-to-ceiling transparent panel gives a full view of the bright market-sealed roof and the buzzing traffic above, and for a moment you are transfixed by the motion. Come, sit. So this is Sabine, okay, a doctor in the bright market. Come sit, comes a sharp voice, and you see a silhouetted figure turned away, replacing the plastic sheathing over the frame of a simple folding bed, I should say. You make your way across the room. The figure turns, and as they do, you see an expression of confusion flash across the features. They open their mouth as if to speak. They blink, and then quickly regain their composure. Please sit. They gesture to the bed and then turn to the open case of tools on the table. You sit. She turns, a compact diagnostic scanner of some kind in their hand. They hold it to their eye. Remain still, please. The tone is clipped and businesslike. You stare ahead, still dazed from the expression when you entered. Fear, recognition, sadness, unmistakably etched across their face. How long have you been on the station? They ask, scanner still to their eye. Don't know if to answer or not. I really don't know if that's the right choice. No, don't answer. They lower the scanner and meet your eye. You can talk. They glance towards the doorway. I know the conditions aren't ideal, but I need you to be honest with me. They make some adjustments to the scanner, or you can leave. Continue. They set the diagnostic scanner on the table. I'm going to start by assuming you don't know anything. You take your arm and roll up your sleeve, inspecting your synthetic skin. Your body is decaying. It's dying. They say it without ceremony, without drama, but not without empathy. SNR doesn't like to see its property technology let loose. to prevent bodies like yours, frames as they call them, from being stolen, repurposed, or in your case escaping. They built in a process so-called planned obsolescence. Frames decay rapidly when not regularly injected with stabilizer, one which SNARP remains the sole producer of. They look up. Sound familiar? You know this. They shift in their seat. You aren't the first sleeper I've encountered. You await for more, but they go back into their inspection. They swap to your other arm, running some thin metal device over your skin. You feel your forearm tremble. I'm sorry, Sabine says, and you're unsure if they mean for the cold touch of the metal or for everything else. Emulations like you sleepers, as most people know you, aren't classified as people in any of the surrogate systems. You have no rights, no status. Focus hard on the inspection of your arm. And SNARP has no reason to release stabilizer into the market. Sabine looks up as if to apologize again, but they stop themselves. I know little of this is of use to you. They turn away, disassembling the metal instrument and cleaning it. Silence fills the room as Sabine works, and then the silence gives way to tension. You stare at their back, willing them to say something. Anything. Sabine turns to face you. I may be able to help, they sigh, and you see the darkness under their eyes, hear the fatigue in their voice. They gesture. Door. You saw Toshiro outside? He works for my benefactor, Yatagon. They are influential in the low end. They give me the space to work, run the door, and take the profits. At the same time, I have to fix up their enforcers, tend to their implants, sew up their wounds. Look away. But Yatagon has connections. Smugglers from the Starwood Belt, mercenaries working for corporations on Ember. If they can source the stabilizer, maybe you'll have a better chance. Sabine sets down the slate and notes complete. This is dangerous. It'll be expensive, but I think we can do it. Why are you helping me exactly? Sabine walks away to the window, their face dappled by the shadows of passing drones. Let's just see if this works first. I'll let you know when I have a lead. You nod and leave, Sabine still staring out, unmoving. When you reach the lower level of the market, look back up through the panels of the roof to see if you can see their face, but the room looks dark against the lights of the market. Duck your head, walk off into the crowd. Interesting. Sabine's surgery, makeshift doctor's surgery. Sourcing stabilizer. Sabine thinks they can source some stabilizer through Yatagon. It's going to take a few cycles. There's nothing we can do at the moment. Tala, over the corner. Droll slides from the bottle into the lumpy recycled glass. A pale grassy yellow under the overlooks warm lights. The spacer nods and takes the drink, bringing it up to their face in both hands like an offering bowl. This is the good stuff, the stuff Tala says is aged in wooden casks, stored in some closed-off part of the old station, among corroded wires and softly looping systems, though sometimes it's hard to tell if Tala is joking. Either way, you like pouring this stuff. It gets on your fingers, and if you rub them together you can smell the mossy drink. Cut through with aniseed, mushroom, wood, and the alcohol evaporates. You like those who order it too. The aged Duracell is kept beneath the bar, open to order only by those who know it's there, like the quiet spacer sitting at the bar right now. Watch the spacer. They are far enough away that you can freely watch them as you close the bottle and tuck it beneath the bar. You call them a spacer because they bear the hallmarks, pale, vac-suited, bird-boned, and hunched beneath the weight of the station's spin gravity. But the closer you look, the less you see a type. Pale eyes, grey but kind, delicate fingers that lightly drum the bar as if it was an instrument. A shock of black hair almost covering the skull. Okay. Scars are something you have learned to its value. They are what marks out your body from the hundreds, maybe thousands, who knows, of similar modules that rolled out to the S&Ops biolabs. You find yourselves rubbing one on your forearm, a rough little split. Something that on the good days you might think of as a mark of defiance. Suddenly you hear a heavy clunking at the door. It creaks open and a huge cylindrical metal tank thumbles through, slamming into the floor. Darn! Tala breezes in from behind it, a world of hair and bright eyes. Darn! Hello? Sleeper! She ducks behind a bar and comes over. Can you help me with this? You look at the huge metal tank suspiciously. How did you get that up in here? Come around the bar and get to one side of the tank. Okay, says Tala. On my count. 1, 2, 3. You both heave the tank up standing. Somehow you hold it in place, struggling to keep it steady. Well, in the back comes a voice from behind the tank. Somehow you manage to lug the huge thing into the back room where you place it over the corner, dwarfing the rest of the contents of the small room. As you do, you hear a crunch. Stand back and look at the expired rations oozing out from under the tank. Oh, darn! Tala looks up at you apologetically. I know you like those. That's okay. You rush to the crushed rations You push the crushed rations to one side. That's the end of that. Tala looks exhausted and rubs his shoulders. Francis, I swear to... Yup. Yes, he was supposed to be back from Etenese up in the Greenway by now. Back with our Drell. She leans against the tank. It seems like he had lost again, or joined the Haifa commune. We need that Drell. That's 4 other bars near here, and the spaces sure as they sure don't come to the overlook for the ambience. She looks through the open door to check if anyone can hear. She knocks on the hollow tank. So I'm taking matters into my own hands, she smiles. Welcome, Sleeper, to the Overlook Distillery. Look around the dank back room. Needs some work. She picks at some paint flaking from the metal walls. Well, I might need some help though, she shrugs. You up for it? She knocks on the tank again. Could be fun. Happy to help. Okay, she grabs you by the shoulders. I'm excited. She turns around and looks at the tank. I reckon we chop this thing in half, one half for fermentation and the other we turn into a still. We'll also need to gather some ingredients. She turns back and looks at you. You look more like a chopper than a gatherer. She smiles. So how about you build a still and tub while I work on the rest? Oh wait, Sleeper, I have an idea. Tala is grinning now and makes you nervous. To make up for the rations, how about we put a kitchen in here too? Will it fit? We'll make it work. She turns back to the tank. This is going to be great, she says to herself. You look at the dented tank and the bare room. At least she has a vision. Tala nudges you out of the back room and closes the door. And you go back to the bar. You hear the banging and thumping. Spacer finishes up the drink and nods in the direction as they leave. You can't quite tell if it's a gesture of sympathy or good luck. So much for a quiet shift. Right. The Stray. The Stray hops up onto a work surface and looks out the unit's small window. Lovely. It doesn't acknowledge your presence. It just sits there, besides the tray of crumbled crackers, staring out at the low end. Huh, interesting. What is this Stray's story? Are there more on the station? You haven't seen another in the low end, but in this vast megastructure that means little. There could be a whole colony of cats like this in the woods. You look at its sleek dark fur. Yes, definitely majestic. And sharp eyes. It doesn't look ragged, it looks at home. In fact, its presence in this unit makes you wonder if this is the Stray's apartment which you are squatting in. Watch the Stray. The Stray is looking out at the station. You feel its attention on you, waiting for you to spring your trap. You remain relaxed and watch as something flickers in its eyes, perhaps the reflection of a passing ship. The Stray settles a little and starts eating, picking at the broken crackers. You don't remember ever having been this close to an animal. It triggers something in you, a recognition of life. Totally unlike your own, but still somehow connected, parallel, even interwoven. The Stray licks crumbs from its fur. You like it here? Stray flicks their tail at the sound of your voice. It's hard to imagine the stray liking anything, or at least being vulnerable enough to admit it. But the stray's pleasure at existing here in this place shines through its every sinew. It is not that the stray is always happy on the eye, but that the stray is engaged by this place, is alive here. You turn your eyes to the window, the one that the stray looks out of, and you both watch the stars and the ships together. You feel something pass between you and the stray. Kind of acknowledgement of each other, a sense that each of you might share something with the other, a point of connection, if you will. And all at once the stray yawns wide, hops down from the unit and brushes along your legs, and then it's gone, out through the unit's door and back into the corridors of the levels. Oh my. Bad unit. So we can sleep here. We can actually sleep here. Great. And let's see what Raby has to say. As you enter Raby's office, you hear voices. Is that Sabine? You push open the door. Sleeper, what good timing. Calls out as you enter. She calls out as you enter. I want to introduce you to someone. A man is standing at the center of the room, speaking quietly with Raby as he turns as you come in. Meet Yannick. Octagon Elder. Okay. Sleeper, he nods. Been hearing good things from Raby. He smiles with an easy smile. Likewise, he waves a ringed hand. Now, Raby, where were we? Actually, Raby places a hand on your shoulder. The sleeper was what I wanted to talk to you about. She doesn't spare you a look. What is going on? Well, okay then. Yannick tucks his hands into his pockets. Go on. I'd like to recommend them to your ward. Tiny paws. They have shown themselves to be a capable ally here on the spoke side, but we have more than enough to run our territories. I hear the main block is proving more difficult. Yannick leans forward slowly. It's a mess, Raby. He waits, has tinted glasses, shimmering despite the lack of light in the unit. I can use them, he suddenly decides. I smiles. Good to hear. I can immediately. Yannick cuts her off with raised hands. 1 second. Steps on, surprisingly light step closer to you. You eager to work, Sleeper? Yes. Yannick nods his head as he's listening to music. Okay then, you suddenly aren't sure if he's talking to you. That concludes it. Sleeper. And come work in the wards anytime they like. You shoot Raby a confused look. Raby finally glances at you for a moment, but it is so fast that you almost miss it. Good, I know you'll be happy with their work. Yannick reaches out and squeezes his shoulder. Sure, Raby. Now please, he says to you, face you. Let us old friends get back to it. Guides Raby away, leaving you standing alone. Look to Raby, but she's in deep conversation. And so, stunned and confused, you leave. Yeah, what was that all about? I'm now working for them? I guess I am. Yannick is what? This is dangerous stuff. Hey you, want to earn a kit? Chit? Ankhita stands beside a huge pile of tied together hull plates. She stretches out her back, her shoulders bulging beneath her flight suit. Make it too. Ankhita laughs. This goddamn station. She sighs and pinches the bridge of her nose. Alright, come on then. You cross the docking concourse as she begins to split the plating into 2 bundles. What is it with this place, she asks. As she angrily lashes the massive plates together, everyone wants their cuts. She straightens up to an imposing height, her armor plates creaking, and looks up and down. Or is it just that you all think I'm an easy mark? We all need to survive? You look the part? What is this? A stranded mercenary. Okay, why is she... Right. Ankhita softens. I get it. I do. Shakes her head. But if I could go just one cycle without some jumped-up grifter trying to take me for an idiot, then that would be nice. Hoists one bundle of plating onto her shoulder. Come on then. Enough chat. You've got to earn those chits. You struggle to shoulder the plates, but you do eventually. Ankhita gives you a look. Ship's this way, and she gets off down a gantry at impressive speed. As you catch up to her, she turns down a passage, pushing through a small crowd. Stevedores? Why are you doing this yourself? You mean, why aren't I hiring those good folk? She nods back at the Stevedores. I've paid heavenage enough. They are currently rinsing me for a mooring, and I can't vacate unless I either fix the ambergris or sell it off as scrap. Ambergris, is that your ship? You catch on fast. She gives you another of her looks. She rapidly turns another corner as you trail behind. She got cut up pretty bad on our last job, and I had to moor up here for a spell. But since then, it's only gotten worse. Someone got in, sliced the core from our ship mind, so now she's gone dark. She shifts the panels on her shoulder. Upshot is that I'm short one ship mind. With a ton of repairs to do, and with the rest of the crew signed off at the moment, they got wind that I've been stranded. So yeah, it's been a time. Anything I can do to help? I don't know. Got a ship mind tucked away on that frame of yours? For a moment, you aren't sure if she's serious. Kiddo swings the plates from her back, almost knocking you over in the process. This is me. She holds the second bundle off your shoulder. Oh, thanks. You're the first person I've met here who might actually be considered helpful. She pauses, chewing her thumb lip. Look, you want to help? Come see me. I need a hand putting Amber back together, and you don't seem like the type to try anything stupid. Right? She passes the bundles of plates through the ambergris's outer lock and then turns back. Just don't go spreading all this around. Ankhita throws you a couple of chits. She gives you a parting nod and ducks through the doorway. Alright, get out of here. She pulls back and then lock slams shut. Mysterious machine. I wonder what this is about. NEOVEND 33. Decaying vending machine, NEOVEND 33. As you slip inside the sealed dock, a pulsing light grabs your attention. Among the discarded tubing and rusted plates, a machine flickers with a warm glow. Approach the machine. As you get closer, you recognize the machine's blocky shape, settled into an alcove in the side of the dock. A kind of upright cabinet. It is covered in faded logos and messages, from which you assume it was once an industrial vendor intended to dispense and manufacture ship fittings and other mechanical parts necessary for the regular running of freight and resource extraction vessels. Manufacturer is listed as NEOVEND, and you remembered an advert from long ago, squeezed among all of the off-world recruitment drives that assaulted every planet-born citizen, which, incidentally, chirpily sang that name over and over. You wipe a layer of dust from the crackled screen, thinking of those contractors squeezed by their own corporate employers to pay for every bit of minor maintenance on their ships. Enter your registration, chirps a pre-recorded message, catching you off guard. Press some keys. You reach for the keypad and something begins wiring. First this sounds like servo motors starting up, but it quickly becomes a whisper, whining, then a multi-tonal voice that emanates from NEOVEND. Entity, they hiss. Speak with me. Who's that? There is a squeal, almost like some strange mechanical swallowing or intake of breath, before the machine speaks again. I have need of you. You have need of me. That squeal comes again, and you see that it is the 3D printing apparatus in the upper part of the machine resetting into place, so that each time the servos can be orchestrated to produce that whirling, whining voice. You are in danger. The machine creaks. You are marked for deletion. Entity. Hunter tracks you. The screech rattles through the empty dock. You remember the strange head, the figure. Threads closing in. Hunter. The Hunter Protocol. They taste your signature. The sudden whine sets your teeth on edge. You have seen them. This is the gift of an emulated mind. You close your eyes and the skeleton of the station starts to thrum. Emulated minds are adaptable. Move where neurons cannot. Mechanisms. Makes sense. The emulation makes you a target. Adaptable? Yes, you can move through networks, clouds, hardware, software, NEOVEND minds. But you cannot hide there. Hunter is there. Servos shudder the vending machines, casing as they reset. Hunter searches for me also. Hide in this machine. Look at the ruined vending machine. Unusual hiding place for sure. Encounter Hunter, but need entity outside machine. The light flickers. Need you. The screen attached to the vending machine with a swiveling arm comes to life. It displays a flickering map of the station. Ghostly. Threaded. The clouds. Points along the rim glow in deep red. Hunter is always gathering. Too much data. Must build nests, explains NEOVEND. Masters are gone, but continues hunt. Bring this data. Raid its nests. Like masters? Station builders. Sohan. The machine rumbles impatiently. Long gone, their protocol still hunt. Bring offerings. Save self, NEOVEND says pointedly. Mutual need means friends, they conclude, tired of the conversation. The roaring amplifies and then suddenly drops, as mechanisms within the machine click back into place. The glow fades, and you are left stood in the dark of the seated dock, that whirring voice ringing in your ears. Another drive. Completes the other drives. Disable your tracker. NEOVEND is hiding from the Hunter Protocol. They need your help to counter it. Extract Hunter data for NEOVEND. We could do so. I don't know how much help that's going to give us, but still. Station's central mainframe. Ah. Station main dock. Wow. Mainframe. The AE1 mainframe is now mostly disused. Avalanche having set up their own master controllers. Navigator Feng's killer is hiding there. Input 1 imprinted ship mind. Start action. Let's see. Neutral outcome? Continue. You slip into the cloud as easy as blinking. Navigators beside you, the sphere casting light into strange darkness here. This is not how a mainframe should look, a center, a point of connection. The object in front of you is severed, cut off. A rootless, branchless tree, the only trunk remains. Is Killer even here? Quiet, Navigator hisses. Then you see it, like a blade in the dark, an edge slicing through the void. It glides along in the distance and backs out. Then appears again, elsewhere, gliding once more, searching. Looking for us. Wow. Killer. Blinded erasure protocol. The moment you make a sound, the edge leaps closer. And you see now it is not an edge, but the ridge of a long, sharp head, like a shark. Glides past, closer now, and you see into the voids where its eyes should be. You and Navigator exchange looks, both thinking of the same thing. It is blind. Killer crosses between you two, smooth as a razor, then disappears. It flickers back in, further away now. You move close to Navigator to talk. You saw it too then. Killer has been blinded. Be careful. Correct, the protocol is clearly operating outside established limits. It may be unpredictable. You flinch as the silent killer appears closer and glides past you. Empty sockets open wide. You turn to Navigator and notice something strange. The aura of spheres is collapsing. The orbits, usually round and even, are decaying. The spheres are following spiral paths, condensing on a central point. Navigator is noticing it too. They go to shift their position to better direct the spheres. However, they cannot. Whatever's drawing the orrery together is holding them in place. They look at you, suddenly desperate, frantic. It's a trap. You go speak, but Killer appears between the two of you, gliding through the gap. Navigator freezes, and you see them framed in the empty socket. You realize now, if Navigator cannot move, then it is only a matter of time before one of the Killer's sweeps brings them directly through Navigator. And time is not a problem for a protocol that has been running for decades. You look desperately around for a solution, for a way to extract Navigator from the mainframe, and you see it. 3 branches, at least 3, thin and spindly, feeding the mainframe a thin diet of power and data. Break these and the mainframe collapses once and for all, severing the connection. Shattering the hardware, whatever it takes. They must be broken. But they are encased in something, a glassy layer of protection. You'll need to unlock access before snapping them for the mainframe for good. You look at Navigator, trying to reassure them without speaking, and then you blink back to reality. Their expression of fear, after image, slowly fades. You must act quickly. How do we deal with this? How do we deal with all of this, actually? We have plenty of places that we can go to. Interesting. That's not what I need though. Let's talk to Bliss. Ah! Ship mechanic on the hub. So this is Bliss, eh? Okay. No way, Moritz. You take those standards filters back to those smart people who sold you them. You hear the voice echoing out the bay as you pass, and moments later what you assume is Morris drifts out with it, dragging a palette of filter cartridges by the feather. Hey, you out there, the same voice echoes out the entrance. Looking for work? Who, me? Everyone on the station is looking for work. Get in here. The voice is coming from someone shorter than you expected. She's floating in the microgravity of the docking bay, beside a half-deconstructed life support unit that looks like it might have exploded at some point. She points a wrench in your direction. Apologies for that. You know anything about these things? She doesn't wait for an answer. Scratch that, just help me with the casing. Help her, why not? Alrighty then. She deftly moves around the unit, making space for you besides the central seam and the dented case. Just take a grip here and lift out and up. Then I can get in and then bolt it. She whacks the unit with the wrench. Whole thing is twisted to smithereens. No, not smithereens, but it was a bad word. You dig your fingers under the casing and lift it away, the metal squealing with the force. She puts her hands under, spinning the wrench to slip out the bolts, catching them, and the other hand, in her other hand when they spiral free. All good. The casing lifts off, revealing the ornate piping of the unit's interior. She whistles at the mess of ducts and filters. By the way, everyone calls me Bliss. She pats you on the shoulder, offering little in the way of explanation. Is your bay? It is now, yeah, whether I like it or not. She looks at you like that should mean something. Bliss starts pushing and pulling at the ductwork, looking for the fractured pipes. We haggle for contracts, but the good ones get snapped up quick by the bigger bays. So here I am struggling to get this M2 unit running again for one of the freelance tugs. Small-time stuff. Hold this. She rips out a ribbed pipe and hands it to you like a freshly caught fish. We turn stuff around fast and neat, and maybe we get a chance at landing something bigger. Something starts hissing in the unit, and Bliss quiets it with a precise whack. To be honest with you, the way things are going, I can already see the other screws licking their lips. The other crew's licking their lips, ready to take this place over. She looks up at you. I'm almost out of luck. What happened? Long story. Some people just can't keep promises. keeps working, twisting aside pipes with care. There we are. Bliss pulls her hand from deep inside the unit, and out it comes, clutching a lumpen cube scorched black. This thing must have overloaded and popped half of itself out the side. You both duck down to the side of the unit and spot the exit wound, its edges fringed with more scorch marks. And so she says, grab me a replacement converter from the racks, will you? Head to the rack, you kick off from the unit and drift over to the wall racks, where a catalogue of parts sits secure in clamps. Colored tape and scrolled notes flutter across the wall. A complex organizational system of Bliss's own design, or just a big mess. You try to pick out the right part. Replacement converter. Am I supposed to know which one that is? Could be an M2. I think it was an M2. Yeah. Grab the part and push back to the unit. Bliss holds out an arm and you pass it over. The converter spinning gently as it leaves your hand. Perfect, you passed. She straightens up from the unit. That is, if you want to work here. She said something about M2, so I remember that. I guess I passed. Okay, Bliss rubs her hand clean, looking down at her palm. Truth is, I need a hand here. My partner skipped out on me and left me with a whole mess. You seem like you might at least be better at spotting a clean air filter than Lawrence. I'll be happy to. Wait, she frowns at the racks. That's not all of it. My old business partner, they rinsed the place, emptied the accounts. To bid for jobs, we need to put down deposits. Bring in parts, pay tuck fees. For that, she looks nervous. We need shits. An investment? Exactly. Partners. Straight split. Bliss settles herself against the unit and looks off into the distance. I guess I look pretty stupid here asking for any random passer to be my business partner. No offense. She manages a smile. I get it. Thanks. She meets your eye. Appreciate it. Bliss goes back to working on the unit. Look, it's no pressure. You find the money, or you find someone who has, or you just forget the whole thing. Up to you. She gestures for you to help her refit the casing, and you both slot it back into place. I think I'm good to wrap this one up for now. But if you are into it, come back and we can bid on a new contract. Something to get our teeth into. Something that pays. She gives you a serious look. You can trust me. I don't say this stuff lightly. Pick away from the bay, propelling yourself back to the handholds at the entrance. You slip out with a wave, and as you do, someone slips back in. You hear Bliss as you glide down the passageway. Moritz, I swear to God, if those filters aren't clean, I'm gonna beep. You smile. Seems like this could be interesting. Alright, so I got a new drive. I have to help Bliss compete. Bliss needs investment and hard work to turn her repair bay around. Could you be her business partner? Sure, why not? This is bay. 100, that's nothing. Let's do it. A scam or an opportunity. Bliss seems solid enough, and this might be your best chance to get into the hub's repair trade. Do it. Bliss is incredibly grateful. I'll pay back every shit, I promise you. You guess you two are partners now. I'm pretty sure I wasted my money, but that's just how it goes. We have enough for now. Bayview, nice. Okay, achievement unlocked. Riko, commune botanist. Let's talk to Riko. Hello, Riko, head of the Hypha Botany. You head down into the Hypha compound, following a blue-painted line that is labeled laboratories. The member you were assigned to work with told you they'd asked to see you. You still have no idea what about. The line takes you to a blue door and through to a glass-roofed chamber where a network of stems and leaves filters the sunlight coming through the ceiling, casting the whole chamber in a strange yellow green. Peaceful, isn't it? Distracted by the green, you miss the woman standing at a lab bench, camouflaged by the dappled light. Welcome to my sanctuary, she smiles. Come, let's talk, she says, and beckons you closer. I know what this place is. Who are you? Of course, my apologies. She offers a hand to shake. I'm Riko. I run the botany program at Haifa. What is Haifa? She looks surprised. You've been working in the compound for a while now. I'm surprised you don't know more. She lifts a tiny sample jar. Yellow spores dance inside. Haifa lives off the land of the Greenway. It's what allows us to live like we do. No one here pays or is paid. We sleep here, we feed each other. We work for each other. Yes, definitely a small commune. Riko walks away from the bench and waves for you to follow. She opens a small door and leads you down a glass corridor surrounded by vivid greens. All this, she says, gesturing at the overgrowth. It's kind of a miracle. It's a kind of miracle. She looks at you with bright eyes. What do you think usually happens to plants on stations like this when they're abandoned? They dry up. Exactly, they run out of water very rapidly. In fact, she leads you left at a crossroads, but here they endured. She smiles to herself. Actually, no, they thrived. You look at the bright tendrils wrapped around the metal frames in the corridor. They look dominant, strong, like they are taking control of this place. It seemed to be. Riko continues. Of course, I'm trying to create a stable biosphere here. Patchwork the surface with gardens and algae, tanks that feed into a network of microbial reclamation systems. Okay, but they failed? But the Greenway was always envisioned as extractive, a place from which the harvest is removed and sold to those living on the station, not a closed loop. For this reason, when the collapse came, the Greenway should have gone with it. Helene himself was so convinced of it that his first colony never even came here to try to reclaim it. The Eye instead relied on outside favors and influences, shipments from the inner systems, and small-scale agricultural systems like kelp and fungal farm stacks. Even though we have one here. This is amazing. So they overlooked it because they didn't see the potential in it. Interesting. And yet here we are among growth and decay, a biosphere flourishing. When Haifa came here, we expected to find only vacuum-dried stalks and leaves, and perhaps some fungal colonies hidden in the mulch. What we found was a jungle. With this, Riko hits a button on the wall and leads you through a large pair of double doors into a large, impossible chamber. Why would they say it's an impossible chamber? Because the growth was an impossibility. It is every kind of green, from the pale algae tanks to the dark vines that surround them. It's wet too, a rarity on the Eye. Condensation clouds the light from the high glass roof, and it gathers on the shiny broad leaves of shrubs. Did you do this? She smiles. Oh no, not me. Riko turns to you, visibly excited by the room you both stand in. It doesn't make sense, but in many ways, the system has stabilized. Unlike the farm stacks closer to the gap, who need input to support their meager output, this place runs itself. Perhaps Solheim managed something new here. Perhaps they tweaked the plants, or built new systems buried deep below us. Or perhaps their collapse caused some unfortunate cascade, an unlikely chemical reaction within the biosphere. That's what I'd like you to help me find out. She turns to you, her forehead's wet with dew. Aren't you the botanist? Astutely noticed, but I don't need a botanist. Riko sits on a railing. These halls run deep, sleeper, and I'm getting old. She stamps her foot on the metal grating of the walkway. Whatever's causing this, it's to be found in the grooves deep in the Greenway. Haifa won't spare anyone from an expedition. It's too dangerous and unnecessary, they say. I can make the case, but I can't get the vote. You sleepers are hardly beings. I know that much, and you can speak to the Eye, uncover its secrets, in ways I never can. She holds out an arm so you can help her stand. Bring me samples, spores, seeds, and blooms. I can grow them in a lab and study them. The deeper they are found, the better. We'll try. Thank you, she smiles, and thank you for listening. Riko leads you back out of the huge chamber and up through the passages. She's a little slower now and stumbles on the steps. You help her where you can. It's good to have new blood in the commune, she says. Many of us have been here a long time and few come through. She settles back at her bench in the lab, stretching her legs. You got to leave. Come back if you find something, sleeper, she calls. There are discoveries to be made, and you follow the blue line back up, out of the compound, all the time thinking that impossible, magical new drive. Yes, we do have a new drive. Help Riko's experiments. The botanist Riko wants you to help understand the closed ecosystems of the Greenway. Collect spores for Riko. We will do exactly that and not much more else. But for now, what I want is this. Need to improve my condition. Clouds, the Greenway rolls beneath you like a slit-choked river. If what Navigator said was true, then no one has accessed these networks since the collapse. The hunter and killer protocols have never set foot here, never cleared out the intelligence and systems. So why then, you wonder, does it look so dark? Is it just that the bit rot has set in, the entropy of systems reducing everything to shadows and light? You watch as the slotted cipher fizzles in the one open. Apologies for that. Distorted gateway. So you watch as the slotted cipher fizzles in the one open, distorted gateway on the entire rim of the station. It flickers and winks out, and then you are falling into the flow. A river of swirling darkness. You are spun by it, twisted by it, lost in it. It's not that the Greenway was hiding in the darkness. It is made of darkness. It is filled by this substance, this process, this swarm. Now you are among it. You notice that a swarm is exactly what it is, a billion of individuals moving in a flow. There is no network map here, no nodes and threads, only a storm of interchangeable points shifting configuration endlessly. And you see them, a figure tucked away, the only bright spot in the dark river. You push closer through the storm. A garden. Ingrown farm administrator. You're facing away, at least you think so. They are so fractured, so overgrown that it is hard to tell. Even from this distance, you can see the flesh moving and flowing. You watch silent as they stoop and reach down. In their hand is a strange shape, and with twisted fingers, they press it down into the loam of data beneath them, pushing it through this trembling soil. Then they move away, go a little further, and repeat the process, as if they were sowing a field. Push forward, but somehow, despite their slow and deliberate speed, they move faster, and they quickly fade into the storm. You reach the point where they planted the object and look down. There is a glassy, shifting polygon, something inside. You reach down and pick it up. It's cold, but it thunders with energy. You look towards the path of the figure, but they are long gone. You blink out at the clouds, back to the leaves, and the dappled light of the Greenway. You hold a seed in your hand. I wonder what the seed is for. What is this for? Plant the gift. Could I possibly plant the gift? I don't know, I've never... The waste's okay. So here we are. As you step out into the passageway, someone barrels into you from behind, sending you stumbling down to the floor. Or the corridor. Eshe? Stubborn XPR Spacer. Interesting. Wow, she has quite a bit of muscle on her. Alright. You turn to see an unfamiliar spacer, laden with heavy gear. Heavy gear on this side, no heavy gear on that side, apart from the backpack, which has astronaut gear? I assume is astronaut gear. Alrighty. She steadies herself, staring you down as if daring you to respond. Okay. Alright. She adjusts the strap on her shoulder, holding up her hand in recognition before setting off the corridor. Peake. Cautious XPR Spacer. His design is really interesting. Granted, I have seen it before actually starting this up, and I've read a little bit about the updates, but I'll try not to give too many spoilers. I don't know what's going to happen, I just know that there's going to be a lot of drama. At least a little bit, hope. We'll see what it's all about in a moment. I'm sorry for her. The second spacer smiles at you and apologetically. She's on a mission, and when she's on a mission, haha. Shrug. Tell Tell her to be careful, they laugh. Does she look like someone who can be told? Peake. Eshe stands further down the corridor, lowering at her front. She chops at the air, pointing down the corridor to whatever end she is rushing to. Peake raises their eyebrows at you. Eshe, please, do you want everyone on the station to hate us? Eshe hardens. They want to hate us, they can hate us. She drops her hip. I'm not exactly seeing much love as it is. We're lucky we got through before they set up that damn cordon. Cordon? Peake gestures in your direction. See, they don't even know what you're talking about. This station isn't Hawthorne. Not everyone has to follow the same protocol, or some corporation protocol. As she sighs, I'm not saying they are part of the administration. She jerks her head in your direction. But I am saying we need to get these supplies to the Briar before someone starts asking questions. Can I help? Peake smiles slyly. See, Eshe, help. Isn't that exactly what we need right now? Peake. Eshe rolls her eyes. Peake ignores her. We are with the refugees, the ones Havanage have cordoned off from entering the station. Eshe interrupts. The ones that are being quarantined in makeshift vessels that barely make it to the edge to begin with. The ones that your station administrators have called an existential risk. And, of course, are running out of supplies, while their right to safety is being debated by people with no stake in their future. She quickly looks away, annoyed at her own outburst. Yeah, Eshe, you do look like the sort of person that is a little bit hot-headed, but that's okay. Peake sighs. She's right. People are trapped out there, and they turn to Eshe. We understand that this is a big problem for the Eye. Hundreds of refugees and more ships turning up each cycle. They hold up a hand to stop Eshe interrupting, but Eshe turns away, her burning anger a palpable force in the close quarters of the corridor. They need supplies, and after everything they've been through, quarantine isn't helping. Peake finishes. That's terrible. Eshe looks back at you, her fierceness fading. Peake, please. Eshe gathers herself and the supplies. Eshe, we need help. Just like the refugees needed us, we need others too. They smile at her. Peake turns to you. Come find us. The climbing briar is docked at the broken spoke, past the greenway in the wastes. We have a good view of the corridor, though we are keeping our distance for now. Come help us. They squeeze your hand. Will do, Peake. We'll be sure to check you out. Eshe turns to leave and Peake follows, waving goodbye. A moment later, Eshe shouts back down the corridor. Don't bother coming empty-handed. You want to help us? Show us. Bring supplies or don't come at all. And with that, they disappear around the corner. Eshe already picking up speed as Peake calls for her to slow down. A refugee flotilla? Where are they coming from and why now? Each time you think you begin to understand this place, something definitely changes. Right. Messenger. Wow, we lost so much. Okay, let's see what the drone has to say. As you enter the passage that leads through the cordon, a flash of movement catches your eye, the drone. It stops to make sure you haven't seen it and then flits into a side passage leading to a set of narrow stairs. You climb up through a dark shaft, the drone stopping at each landing to check you are following. Despite its lack of expression, there's something overbearing about the way the drone waits, impatiently realigning its fins in sequence. After a long climb, you come out onto an observation platform. Cordon and the vast, ramshackle refugee ships beyond fill your vision. The scale seems impossible, and immediately you feel small and naive for even thinking you could affect the situation. Something shifts nearby. The drone again? Helene? Frustrated Havanage Counselor. Right. The woman is stood at the window at the edge of your vision. You aren't surprised you didn't notice her. She too seems impossibly small in the shadow of the flotilla. The drone buzzes by her shoulder as she turns. Sleeper, sorry for all the cloak and dagger nonsense, she nods at the drone, but I have never regretted being cautious. She smiles a tight smile and holds out her hand. I'm Helene. Take her hand. The tight smile holds, but the drone keeps its single eye fixed on you. The effect is a little unnerving. Look, she glances around the MC observation deck as if checking for potential eavesdroppers. Let's be straight with each other. I know about your plans, and she cuts in before you can respond. I understand your motives. You look at her in her overalls, the eye markers, the HA sigil. You've been on the eye long enough to recognize Havanage member when you see them. Of course. Havanage. You're Havanage. Yes, I mean, I expect that is obvious. Tight smile again. I hope you won't hold that against me. She glances around nervously again and moves a little closer. The entire situation, I am not here to defend it. She glances back at the flotilla. No one is happy about this. Especially not the refugees. She sighs. I'm not your enemy here, no matter what you think. She pauses. Sleeper, tell me something. What does Havanage mean to you? Ardenhurst. She squints at you. That was unfortunate. But you should know it was one of our own who exposed Harden, and that has been dealt with. Havanage is used to being criticized. In some ways we invite it. Our members are free to bring up grievances at any meeting, to propose new structures and approaches. She shifts her weight impatiently. As a councillor, it is my duty to listen to them. This is why I was elected by the members. We are an imperfect system, yes, and each councillor, each member, each representative can be flawed, and worse. She looks down. But we keep this place running, and that is what we do. And the flotilla? She turns and looks out at the clump of fractured ships. Flotilla is a problem. Can the Eye take in thousands of refugees safely? I don't know. This place is a ruin, Sleeper. What do you think the council discusses? The price of Girole? We make plans to keep this place spinning, to keep life support working, to ensure... Lean's slate chirps and a grim look passes across her face as she sees a notification on the slate. She looks tired, the screen light causing her rigid expression in a pale glow. Sleeper, I didn't bring you here to explain how Havanage works. I came to talk about your plans to cross the cordon, breach the quarantine, and supply the flotilla. She looks directly at you. Silent. I know you think you are helping the flotilla, but you cannot do this. Right now, halfway along the ring, one of a countless series of debates are being held. These debates are to evaluate the potential harm that could be caused if the refugees of the flotilla are left to enter the station. These debates are at a standstill. Helene walks to the window. Too many in the Havanage Council think of the flotilla as a threat. After recent events, a hardline group has emerged, protective, selfish. They seek only to benefit the members. In their mind, the flotilla is a danger to life on the Eye. If you are caught crossing the cordon and breaching the quarantine, it will only strengthen the hardline councillor's case. Criminals who stole a ship from XPR undermining the security of the station? She shakes her head. It's exactly what they want. I really don't trust, I know she wants to probably change things a little bit, but yeah, the refugees need supplies. They do, and that's exactly what I want to give them, but unless the quarantine is lifted through a fair process, they will never get them. She sighs deeply. And those XPR spaces you're running with? Sleeper, do you know anything about them? Silent. Why do you think the refugee flotilla came here now? Something is happening in the system. Something is pushing people out of colonies and outposts that have survived since Alzheimer's collapse. We need to be ready for whatever is coming, ready to protect the Eye. I know the Eye means something to you. I know there's a reason you're still here. Help me protect it. Helene fixes you with a strong look. Persuade those spaces that this is the wrong move, that they will get caught and the flotilla will be locked down. But Havanage will be delivered into those with the worst instincts. Forget this suicidal supply run with people you barely know. Help me fight for the Eye. Why don't you stop them? If I expose the plan, it's the same as if it goes ahead and they are caught. Every way I look at it, the Eye looks compromised, the quarantine justified, the hardliners get their scapegoat. Don't offer up the excuse the hardliners hardliners need to lock the flotilla out altogether, to persuade the members they are the safest pair of hands. She looks at you imploringly. Please. You look back at her and the flotilla behind, and sense a desperation in her plea. The notification breaks the silence. Darn. She rapidly scrolls through pages of data. Sleeper. I need to go. She looks torn. Think about this, please. Talk to the spacers. Help them see reason. As she quickly leaves the observation deck before you have time to respond. You stay for a moment, watching the light of the tugs and the flotilla, and wonder what it feels like to be on one of those ships, so close to your destination, and yet so far away from it. And then you think of the Hovenage Council chamber, across the eye, where the right of these people to find safety is being debated. You shiver, and then you too are gone, back into the stairwell in the cold dark room. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like and subscribe. Thank you.